What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. Now, depending on your individual lifestyle, your individual job, and stuff like that, some of you may have opted to carrying around like rifles and small bags and stuff like that. Just going places in day to day, like little short ARs of pick a variant, and or the job that you have. I wouldn't say dictates, but allows for a reasonable amount of like rifle usage of some kind, and you may or may not have thought of an individual way for you to carry around a rifle magazine in a non-high profile way, right? And the high profile ways that I'm talking about are like chest rigs, plate carriers, or freaking battle belts, stuff like that. You just want to be able to carry a rifle magazine around that's not in a pocket, that's separate from the rest of your pockets, so you can do like your normal day-to-day stuff, like your keys or your wallet or whatever, right? And you still want to walk around with that rifle magazine without it really getting in the way. Now, you guys read the title, and and you may or may not have understood that that meant this, okay? Now, I've been playing around with this for a little while now, and I've started to recognize a little bit of its merit. Number one, for those of you that do teach and stuff like that, and there are a few of you that watch this channel, I will say it is a little more convenient and a little more discreet to opt for this over like a battle belt or something. Pretty much the primary reason why I went to getting a battle belt of some kind was because I teach, really. I don't need the plates to do my job, and unless there's almost exclusively people running around with chest rigs, I don't really mess with putting on plates and all that stuff to teach, mostly because a lot of times people come out with battle belts of some kind or regular chest rigs without plates. So I'm just looking for a more convenient way to do the demos and all the stuff that I got to do. But the issue that I end up having with that is that, typically speaking, like my concealed carry gun or whatever goes on that battle belt, and then you rig it up and all that stuff, and it usually requires you to just like pull out your concealed carry stuff, set it on the table and all that jazz, and then come back to it later. Realistically speaking, it's not that big of a deal. It's really not. But if there's ways for you to be more lazy and still do what you're supposed to, or what you should, then great, right? And this is just a way for me to have my concealed carry stuff on my body. All I have to do is swap out the bullets meant for people and not for cardboard, and then stick on the rifle magazine. We're good. So to me, it's a convenience thing, right? However, there are a couple other people a couple other types of people that I talked to in the past where this would probably help you out quite a bit. Like that guy who's carrying around a real short AR of some kind, and he's got it in like a tennis racket bag or whatever, and he just carries it around on day to day. And the size of everything is an issue, right? To where, depending on the bag type or the gun type, they may have to cut that gun in half, like separate the upper from the lower, and then stick a magazine in the magazine well and just kind of set it in the bag like that. Or the gun's assembled and magazine separate, like canted sideways and real weird. Or if they have a bag that'll support it, it's a single loaded magazine or a 20-round magazine, and that's fine. Now, oftentimes the question comes to where that person will ask, well, you carry a pistol with a spare magazine on you, and I know that it's not for like the ammunition thing, it's for the fact that I train with this gun all the time and the magazines. So if I run into a failure to feed or a type 3 of some kind, okay, that's what that extra magazine is for. What do I do about the rifle? Well, this is a way to do that in a fairly discreet way. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to do this during the summer all the time, because regular t-shirts go on in the summer, and if it weren't for the flannel with the pattern on it, it may actually print on like a regular t-shirt. The only time that I've ever really worn this is if I got a button-up or a jacket of some kind. But Seeing as for a lot of you, fall, winter months span half of the year, sometimes if not more, you may opt to just go ahead and do that, to where, okay, just stick an extra rifle magazine on my body and all of that's covered. There's also the thought process to where, I want to keep the rifle up as much as I can, as far as just like self-defense and all that. Okay, cool. So that's a way for you to blend out the weight. For those of you that are having an issue with, just having the magazine in the bag that you're carrying around, you can just opt to not do that. And when you bust out the rifle from the bag, you can simply stick that magazine in the gun and call it good from there. And I also know that there's another type of person that this would benefit quite a bit. And this is like my gun shop guys, the dudes that work in gun shops and stuff like that. And there's a lot of you that watch this channel. I got this from a buddy of mine down at Shooter's World. And, when he told me about this, at first I had to sit there and ponder it. But then I figured out, you know what, that's actually pretty smart. Because you see the dude walking around and he's carrying a gun on him, right? And some gun shops make you tuck in a shirt. So you can see that there's a pistol on him for sure. But then I would see a rifle magazine just on his belt all the time, right? At Shooter's World, they do the shirt tucked in thing. And he would sit there and be like, well, this is kind of a big shop. If something goes down and it's not in my section, I got a bajillion unloaded rifles right behind me. So I'm just going to, stick this in one of those. And this shop's kind of large, but it ain't large enough to where, a not zeroed rifle's going to matter. And I was fairly impressed by that logic, depending on like size of the shop and all that stuff, of course. And he was comfortable with that, So I was honestly quite impressed. He was kind of like, yeah, most manufacturers that ship with irons on the gun, they're quote battle sight zeroed or mechanically zeroed, and I know where I print on that, so doesn't matter to me. So I found that actually to be pretty smart, actually, to where he essentially made it to where he's not bringing a rifle into work, not his personal, but, and it's mostly because, he wasn't allowed in this particular shop, but he has a pistol that he carries on him every day, and also he has an option to go to a rifle, which, in all honesty, if I have an option between a pistol and a rifle for anything, I'm picking a rifle for the most part, right? Because I just accept the fact that rifles are so much better at stopping individuals. So to me, that resonated quite a bit, because I was just kind of like, wow, that's actually really smart. And then I just kind of found, over time, other things that having a random magazine on your body would actually help you out with. Now, there are a couple of things that you do need to be aware of. Number one, the second you sit down in a car with one of these on, that sucks. That sucks. The top of the magazine stops about right here, right? So right when you sit down and that seat presses in, it's jabbing you in the ribs pretty hard, which is actually kind of why I'm walking around with a clip system on this. Not because I think it's more reliable than a belt loop of any kind, but because I can take it on and off easily and it'll suit my needs much better, right? And setting that down in my passenger seat or, center console or whatever is not a big deal, because right when I get out, I can just go ahead and throw it on. Now, the second thing is actually the magazine type itself. If you don't feel like taking this off, if you just want to keep it on your body, what I've actually found to be more comfortable than anything else as far as just carrying it on a day-to-day basis is GI magazines. And the reason for that is because the base plates are enlarged on them, right? And the rounded nature of the bodies, magazine bodies, is not a huge hassle, right? Like I've tried this with PMags and Lancers and stuff like that, and they tend to have slightly wider base plates to them. Not much wider, but wide enough to the point where the second you try and sit down in a car with this on, you'll notice them a little bit more than a regular GI mag and all that. So, that's my mileage, and that's what I would personally prefer. But as far as just like concealability and whether or not you print and stuff like that, there's a whole spiel that I have about like concealed carry clothing and stuff like that. It needs to be very gray man, right? You guys can see that I have like a flannel shirt on and there's a little bit of a pattern on it and stuff. The pattern is actually fairly significant because like a flat black shirt, for instance, silhouettes or prints out a pistol or whatever much better than that of something with a little bit of a pattern on it. It's something to more or less distract the eyeballs from what's underneath the clothing, right? And as far as the rifle magazine itself is concerned, like if you're in that Walmart or whatever, and you freaking bend over to grab something, I'm not saying this won't print, but the cool thing about it printing is that it is just a box, right? Instead of like a pistol sticking out or something like that, it's just a box. So because it's just a box, most people will associate that as like a cell phone or something, and most people aren't like mentally just ready for, hey, that's a magazine. No, people will identify something like a pistol or something like that much sooner than they will a rifle magazine of some kind. So as far as printing and stuff, I'm less worried about that than anything else. So what do you guys think? I know that people from all walks of life are watching this channel and stuff like that. So what do you think about this individual concept? If it doesn't fit for you, tell me why. There's a gigantic different number of reasons, or a gigantic number of reasons why someone would opt out of walking around with a regular rifle magazine on them. A lot of people would consider it entirely unnecessary, which I completely understand. But those of you that found this to be a pretty good idea, or are already doing a variation to this or exactly this, let me know, and let me know why, so that the pro-con list gets extended a little bit, or as far as the opt-in, opt-out list. You know what I mean? So, let me know as far as what you think about that whole concept and all that. Now, as far as, and by the way, I'm addressing a few direct questions here, now that the subject matter of this video is over. As far as classes and stuff like that, my guys out west, please be patient. Please be patient. I'm looking at a site in Nevada right now. It'll be a few months before I have stuff built up, and it's not because of like a lack of resources or anything like that. It's actually because I have a baby coming, really. So I'm trying to plan out when to go out there and work on that kind of stuff while doing what I got to do here, and then scheduling that around when the baby's coming. And it's not that far off. It's not that far off. So I have to be careful. But as far as the site in Nevada is concerned, it's up in Winnemucca, Nevada. So like northern central Nevada and stuff like that. So you guys on the West Coast will be able to come out and train with us when we have that up. There's also other places I'm considering too. I'm talking to a guy about doing a couple of classes in Maine, not May, but in Maine. And the way that it looks as far as scheduling and stuff like that is concerned is probably going to be really cold, which is fine. I'm probably going to be back out to Indiana fairly soon here, but planned out to January. So far, we have Florida Pistol 1 and 2 class in November. So, handle that. I'll leave a link in the description below to all of our current mobile classes, so you can just scroll through it and click on what you need, and you can get the dates and all that stuff. The one in November is like mid-November. And then December, we're going to Bud's Gun Shop in Kentucky. That's in Lexington, and that's for Pistol 1. That's December 1 and 2. They were gracious enough to host us out there, so, cool. And in January, I'm going to Louisiana. Some of you may watch them on the YouTubes and whatnot, but the guy who runs a Null Attack channel also runs a facility out there, and he teaches a bunch of classes out there and everything else. And he invited me to come out and do a Rifle 1 class out there in January. So we're going to be out there in Louisiana, and that's early in January. So, we'll see what happens with that. And, if you want to come out and train with us, go ahead and do that. If you want to come out and train with us for fairly cheap, first of all, our regular class prices are like $200. So that's already, very cheap compared to industry standard. I believe in under promise, over deliver as a thing. And those of you that want to come out and train with us, even cheaper than that, you can support us on Patreon, and I'll leave a link for that in the description below. The money that you essentially donate through Patreon goes straight to our soldier program, where we bring guys out, pay for their flight, ammo if they need it, guns, gear, all that stuff, and we bring them out and train them for nothing, right? And those of you that donate to the Patreon and all of that, thank you a lot, because you make that entirely possible. So if you want to support that, and if you want to come out and train with us for free, or I'm sorry, not for free, but for very cheap, you can go ahead and do that, because for $35 a month, you can take as many classes as you want with us for as long as you're doing the $35 a month program through Patreon. So, is what it is. Now, with all that being said, guys, again, give me your opinions on this particular little method of stuff, or carrying around magazines or concealed carry stuff in general, in the comments below. And remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.